Hello, 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 my loves. As always, I hope that this video or this live finds you well and in excellent spirits. So, welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast live here in the Astro Room on YouTube. I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So, if this is our first time meeting, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So, this channel is everything astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So, if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, or if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my love. So, this is the weekly Astro Forecast for the week of December 9th through 15th, 2024. My goodness is all I can say because we are experiencing, I don't want to say it's a rarity, but I will say that it's an astrological transit that we don't experience very often. So we are in the midst of Mars retrograde. So Mars went retrograde this past Friday, and Mars will remain retrograde for the next 3 months. All right. And I know that you are feeling this energy. I know that there's probably a part of your life where things aren't going as planned, where you're either really tired, exhausted, something has come to a halt, where things have really slowed down. It can be super frustrating. However, there's definitely a method to the universe's madness. All right. And so, given that we are in the midst of not only Mars retrograde, but Mercury retrograde and Jupiter retrograde, you may feel as though you have the motivation, or let's say you have the drive or you have the ideas, but the execution is just kind of lacking. So it's a frustrating time nonetheless. But we're all going through this. But yeah, it's definitely a lot. But thankfully, the astrology for this week is pretty light given the current astrological climate. So, apart from sort of a light astrological forecast, we have a full moon to look forward to, which is going down on Sunday. So we're working our way towards that. And we've got some of the regular kind of astrology transits this week. All right. So before I get into all of the juicy details, housekeeping and announcements. So if you are joining me here on the live this evening, thank you so much for tuning in. I sincerely appreciate you. And as you come in, please hit that like button and say hi on your way in as well. It's the best way to support the channel. It lets the algorithm know that you like this content. And so it will disseminate it to other people who may like it as well. And that's what ultimately helps the channel grow. So if you could do that for me, I would definitely appreciate it. And if you're watching this on the replay, I sincerely appreciate you just as much. Hopefully, you find what you're looking for this in this broadcast, whether it is information, confirmation, clarity, illumination, enlightenment. Either way, hopefully you find what you're looking for here. And if that is the case, definitely hit that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell if you haven't already. All right. So, my 2025 yearly Astro reading is still in effect. You'll definitely want to secure your spot sooner rather than later because spots are filling up. And this is the premier reading that will let you know exactly what 2025 has in store for you specifically. Every relevant transit, eclipse, retrograde that will affect you, we will talk about it so that you can not only get prepared for 2025, but plan and set goals and do all of those things. This reading is definitely everything. And if you're interested in scheduling this annual reading, the link will be in the description box below, as well as tagged to the video. All right. But let's say you're not necessarily ready for all of that, right? Because this can be a lot. Maybe you're new to astrology. You're not quite sure what all goes on and what is what. Don't worry, I got you covered. So if you're looking for a great introduction to astrology, then you'll want to sign up for my free live workshop, which is called Your Cosmic Selfie, an intro to your natal chart. This is a free live workshop that I do every 2 weeks. Short, sweet, to the point, and it's a really great overview for someone who's not necessarily too familiar with their natal chart, or even if you are familiar with your natal chart but want to learn some really interesting and sort of pertinent information. All right. And so I give it live every 2 weeks. If you can't make it, you can still sign up and you will get a copy of the recording. All right. And if you're interested, link is in the description box below and tagged to this video. All right. And I guess that's it in terms of the announcements, right? So let's talk about the week, namely December 9th through December 15th. So, like I said, we are navigating the interesting waters of Mars retrograde as well as Mercury retrograde and Jupiter retrograde, right? So Neptune just went direct, Venus just entered Aquarius. And so we're in this space and in this point in time where things are really slowing down. And it's very much sort of counterintuitive to society, right? Because we're in December. December is when people are making that last ditched effort to close out the year successfully. At work, you're not only wrapping things up, but planning for 2025. You've got loose ends to tie up. You've got parties. You've got holidays. You've got get together. You've got so much stuff. When the universe is like, I want you to slow down. I want you to take a breather. I want you to start hibernating, right? And what's interesting, like I said before, this Mars retrograde is lasting until February. So we're starting the year off. We're starting the new year off with this sort of element of slowness, with this element of stopping, with this element of, not being so busy. And that can be not only counterintuitive, but it can be very unnerving and frustrating, right? Because you've got plans, you've got your own timeline, you've set these goals, and you've put everything on the calendar, and you're going to do this, to do this, to do this, all for the universe to say, F your plans. And actually, I just dropped a video all about Mars retrograde, and I literally called it F your plans, because that's kind of what the universe is doing right now. But not without love. The universe doesn't do things to punish you, or the universe doesn't do things to troll you, right? When Mars goes retrograde, it's really a time for you to stop. It's really a time for you to rest, and it's really a time for you to recalibrate. But most importantly, what I love about Mars retrograde, it's like you really get to reassess where you've been putting your energy. In this video, I reference this same example a lot. I talk about how it's like you're a hamster on a wheel, right? And it's kind of like you're going nowhere fast. And Mars retrograde gets you to stop and really think about, am I even going in the direction that I want to? At one point I was really, hyped or motivated about this goal. Am I still motivated? Do I even still want to do this thing? Because Mars is the planet of force, of physical energy, it represents where we've been putting our effort. And maybe where you've been putting your effort isn't where you want to put your effort anymore. Or maybe it's not the best place to put your effort. And I feel like Mars retrograde is so good for getting you to understand what will be more effective and what you're really passionate about, right? And where you really want to go and what you really want to do. So use it for that, right? And understand, and I say this a lot when I talk about January, because January obviously is a fiscal new year, but it is not the natural new year. The natural new year is in March, right? And so January is the middle of winter. And it's not to say that you can't start anything in January. It's just that harder, right? At least it's the middle of winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. Let me say that, because I don't know where everyone is watching from. Although when I look at my analytics, most of you live in the Northern Hemisphere. But if someone is in the Southern Hemisphere and you happen to catch this live, I don't want you to feel left out, right? So here in the Northern Hemisphere, it is winter. And winter is a time for hibernation. What I love about astrology is that it represents nature, and nature is like, listen, there's a time to sprout, there's a time to go, there's a time to harvest, and there's a time to rest. And we're currently in the resting phase. And with Mars retrograde, that concept or that issue, right, is really highlighted. And that is a great thing, because you can't be on 100 all the time. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. So conserve your energy. Take a look at where Leo and Cancer are in your natal chart. This is where Mars is going retrograde. And these are the areas of life where you'll slow down, or stop or rest or not be so productive. And again, that's a really good thing. And if you want to know more about Mars retrograde, I did a video all about it. Plus, I even broke it down by sign. If you are a channel member, you get to watch that. Links will be in the description box below as well as tagged to this video. It's not going to be tagged to the video, but the link will be in the description box below. All right. So, as far as this coming week, it's a light week, but on Sunday, we've got the full moon in Gemini. Now, if you watched my December Astro forecast, which hopefully you did, I will leave the link to that in the description box as well. But we've got 3 moons not 3 moons. We've got 2 new moons and 1 full moon this month. So, it's like the first of the month was the new moon in Sagittarius. The 15th of the month is the full moon in Gemini. And then the 30th of the month is a new moon in Capricorn. So this is kind of a month when we're really experiencing a lot, right? It's like we're experiencing the full lunar cycle in one particular month. So, with the full moon in Gemini, it's going to be a busy time, and it's definitely going to be a time of learning, a time of communicating. And what's interesting is that on the day of the full moon, Mercury will be going direct. So we're not necessarily out of the woods yet in terms of that Mercury retrograde energy. So things may be a little wonky. However, that's kind of going to be the start of perhaps learning something new, communicating in a new style, maybe talking to other people in a new kind of way. It's going to be really good. And I did a video all about that, which is dropping tomorrow. So again, if you haven't hit the subscribe button and that notification bell, please do so you don't miss any of this wonderful content that I have coming out. All right. So without further ado, let's get into the week and talk about specifically what we have going on. And of course, we start off with the highlights. All right. So first, we have what I like to call release some tension. And this is Venus opposite Mars. Now, we don't have much going on this week, but this is a pretty major transit, and this is a transit that doesn't happen quite too often. And the fact that Mars is retrograde makes this transit really stand out. It's really this push and pull, or this tug of war between your desires and sexual tension. It has a very sexual undertone to it, which could be frustrated given the fact that Mars is retrograde, so that's not exactly fun. However, it really does foster this ability to reflect on what you desire, what you're passionate about, and sexual issues, which is always a good thing, right? Then we have what I like to call an aha moment, and this is the full moon in Gemini. So the full moon in Gemini, it promises to be mixy. It promises to be, very busybody energy. However, I do think that there is this aha moment or this clarity that we'll definitely experience with this full moon. And then finally, we have what I like to call regularly scheduled programming. And this is Mercury going direct in Sagittarius. Now, I don't know about you, and maybe because this particular Mercury retrograde hasn't been the hellscape that Mercury retrograde could be, but this Mercury retrograde has seemed really short. Like normally, Mercury retrograde for me, because I'm Mercury ruled. I'm a Virgo sun, so Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. So Mercury retrogrades, I tend to really feel them a lot. This one hasn't been that bad. And I feel like this particular go around with Mercury has been really short, thankfully. And so come Sunday, Mercury will go direct, which is always welcome. All right. So that's essentially what we've got going on for the week, generally speaking. Let's get into the details and see exactly what this week looks like. All right. So this is what we've got going on for the week of December 9th. So first, we've got Venus sextile the North Node, the Sun trine Chiron, Venus opposite Mars, like I mentioned before. Mercury will sextile Venus. We've got a full moon in Gemini and Mercury going direct. All right. Now, in terms of the moon cycle, this is what it's looking like this week. So we've got the waxing gibbous moon in Aries and Taurus. That's how we start out the week. Then we've got the full moon in Gemini, and that same day, the moon will move out of Gemini and get into the waning gibbous phase in Cancer. All right, so let's get into the week, and we begin with Monday today. We've got Venus sextile the North Node, and we've got the waxing gibbous moon in Aries. All right, let's see what this looks like on the chart. Ooh, no, that's not what I meant to do. Okay. I love how, there we go. I love how technology and me are like best friends sometimes. All right, so you will see Venus sextile the North Node. You'll see Venus at 3 degrees of Aquarius at the top of the chart. And in the other red circle, you will see the North Node, which is the horseshoe looking thing at 3 degrees of Aries. And then you will also see right next to the North Node, you'll see the moon at 4 degrees of Aries. All right, so let us discuss. So, when it comes to Venus sextile the North Node, this is one of those transits where it's like right place, right time, right people. Anytime that we're talking about the North Node, we're talking about our North Star, we're talking about our destiny. And Venus represents relationships. And understand that when I say relationships, I don't necessarily mean romantic. This could be a friend, a coworker, a mentor, a mentee, right? Either way, opportunities to meet the right people to help you get on the right track will present themselves at that time. I feel like at this time, I feel like that is the best way to sum up this transit, right? So it behooves you to keep your eyes open. So Venus is currently in Aquarius, and Aquarius is the sign of the collective. Aquarius is also the sign of the internet. Okay. So this is definitely a transit where you can find your tribe online. You may sign up for some sort of group or membership, and it's exactly where you need to be, getting the right information that you need. For some, depending on where this is happening in your natal chart, this could be finding someone on a dating app, right? This could be finding a pen pal somewhere. Either way, it's some sort of relationship that helps you get to where you need to be. Okay. Now, understand this though. Venus is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is a sign of sort of rebellion. It's very quirky. It's often given the connotation of weird. So, these new people that you're meeting, they may be very eclectic. They may be a little weird. They may march to the beat of their own drum. And so that may make you feel like when you first meet these people or when you first start interacting with them, you're like, these are not the people I usually associate with, or this person's kind of weird. But it's like, let me put it this way. And this is the way that like spirit is giving it to me. Have you ever, now, I'm a New York City girly. So what I'm about to explain is a very normal occurrence in New York City, although it may not be a normal occurrence where you are. Have you ever had like a homeless person or someone who seems like they're on drugs or whatever? They start talking to you, but they're really like spitting knowledge, or they're really telling you what you need to hear. Or sometimes, they're like an angel in disguise. Like this is that kind of transit. So don't just automatically dismiss someone because they're not like the typical type of person that you talk to, or they seem weird, or they seem out there. They probably have something very important to impart upon you that will help you get on the right track. All right. So keep your eyes open and be receptive to whoever kind of orbits into your atmosphere. All right. Then at the same time, tonight we have the waxing gibbous moon in Aries. So we're making our way to the full moon, which is on Sunday. So this week leading up to Sunday, the moon is in the waxing phase. And in the waxing gibbous phase, it's like you're almost at the finish line, right? If you think of the full moon as when your manifestation comes to fruition, the waxing gibbous phase is when you're doing like those last minute things to put things all together to bring your manifestation to fruition. Okay. And when the moon is in Aries, like we're really hyped, we're really animated, we're really motivated, driven, and passionate when it comes to a goal. And so, even though Mars is retrograde, and I bring up Mars retrograde because Mars is the planetary ruler of Aries. And with the moon in Aries, although your emotions may have you feeling amped and feeling motivated, your physical energy may be low, or you're just not as motivated as maybe you normally would be. But it behooves you to take any sort of action that you can right now, even if it is a baby step. A million baby steps will get you to your destination, right? So it's really important that if you feel a burst of energy, act on that. If your intuition is telling you to do something or go somewhere, act on that. That's very much moon in Aries energy. It can be a little impulsive. It can be a little erratic, even a little bold and dynamic and risky. But that's ultimately what we need when we're talking about taking action. So, with the waxing gibbous moon in Aries tonight, whatever you feel like doing, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you have the energy for, definitely do it. All right. So that sums up Monday. Let's keep it moving and go to Tuesday. All right, so Tuesday, light day, we've got the Sun trine Chiron. All right, and let's see what this looks like on the chart. So you will notice the Sun on the right-hand portion of the chart at 19 degrees of Sagittarius. And then you will see at the left-hand portion of the chart, you'll see Chiron, which is that green key looking thing. It is at 19 degrees of Aries. All right, so Sun trine Chiron is really about this sort of definiteness of purpose. Not only definiteness of purpose, it's really about seeing what needs to be healed, right? Seeing what your hangups are, really getting clear on what your insecurities and your emotional wounds are. Now, because both of these, the sun is the planet, Chiron is more like an asteroid, but because both of these things are in fire signs, right? The sun is in Sagittarius, Chiron is in Aries. It's really about taking action. So, again, you may feel very motivated to heal, to transform, to start something new, right? The best way I can describe this is, let's say that you have a fear of public speaking, right? It's not that you're bad at it, it's just that speaking in front of other people makes you super nervous. And, Sun trine Chiron, it's like you become hyper aware of this fear of public speaking. And rather than give into it and be like, yeah, nah, I'm not gonna do that. Or seeing opportunities where you could speak in public and you're just like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I feel like Sun trine Chiron is like, you know what? Fuck it. Like let me just apply for this. Let me put out a YouTube video or let me host this, let me host the Sunday school class, right? Like and speak to everyone. It's this not necessarily caring about your wounds and your insecurities, but like pushing past it. And this is great because obviously our insecurities and our wounds, they serve to hold us back at times. So this is a great transit to overcome your fears, overcome your shortcomings, and really put yourself out there. And I use put yourself out there intentionally because the sun, think about the sun in the sky, right? It shines, it's bright, it's brilliant. And so with this particular transit, it's like you kind of don't give a fuck about your insecurities. You just choose to shine anyway. And you do it in a way where a lot of people can see, or you do it in a really grandiose kind of way so that people can't help but notice it. So this transit could really take you far. It could really take you far out of your comfort zone if you allow it to. So, to sum it up with this transit, shine and shine unapologetically. Don't worry about your hangups or your insecurities. I feel like you're going to be willing to look past them or work through them, which ultimately will take you to a whole new level. I love that for us. All right. So, let's keep it moving. So, that's Tuesday. Let's get into Wednesday. So on Wednesday, we have the waxing gibbous moon in Taurus. Okay. And let's see what this looks like on the chart. You'll notice at the left-hand portion of the chart, you'll see the moon in the sign of Taurus. All right. So the moon loves to be in the sign of Taurus. When the moon is in Taurus, it's Netflix and chill. It's take a break. It's get comfortable. It's get cozy, right? Who doesn't need that? And what I absolutely love about astrology and just the universe in general is that every month When the moon is in Taurus, you get a couple of days to just chill. So that's exactly what you should do. So the moon will be in Taurus from Wednesday to Friday. So between then, chill. You don't necessarily need to do the most. Get comfortable, get cozy, all of that good stuff. Now, like I said before, we're making our way to the full moon in Gemini on Sunday. So we're still in the waxing phase. And when the moon is in the waxing phase, it's like when we do more, not more work, but it's we're still working toward the manifestation of our goals. But when the moon is in Taurus, it's like relax and appreciate how far you've come. Understand that you've done some work. You can rest a little bit. So use the next, I'm not going to say the next 2 days because this is happening on Wednesday, but between Wednesday and Friday, chill out, rest, appreciate where you're at, and be grateful for what you have. That's another facet of Moon and Taurus that I really like. Be grateful for what you have. All right, let's keep it moving. So we're already up to Thursday. So here's what we got on Thursday. We've got Venus opposite Mars. All right. And let us see what this looks like on the chart. At the upper right-hand portion of the chart, you'll see that Mars is at 6 degrees of Leo and it is retrograde. And exactly opposite from Mars, we've got Venus, which is at 5 degrees of Aquarius, and it is also conjunct Pluto. All right, that's super, super important. So let's discuss. So, Venus opposite Mars, this has a lot to do with tension. It has a lot to do with pleasure. It has a lot to do with desire, passion, and sex. It also has a lot to do with relationships. Now, Venus is currently in Aquarius and it is in close proximity to Pluto. So when it comes to Venus conjunct Pluto in Aquarius, it's this energy of transforming our relationships, improving our relationships. Could also be a situation where we are improving our financial situation. But because Venus is opposite Mars, it has a lot more to do with relationships, sex, intimacy, all of that kind of stuff. And so with Mars being retrograde and Venus conjunct Pluto, this could be a time where we're really examining the foundation of our relationships, like from the inside out. We're really understanding what we want, why we want what we want, and how that's reflected back to us in our relationships. Now, this could be a really introspective transit. It could also just be a time where you're sexually frustrated. Like, this really depends on where it's going down in your chart. It could really depend on a number of things. But I feel like the best use of the energy is to understand what your desires are, what brings you pleasure, and how those things or the lack of those things are being reflected back to you in your relationships. Okay. This is definitely going to be a time when perhaps you're not really engaging in sex like that. Mars retrograde tends to be a time where the libido is low, where we're not as fired up and passionate as we normally would be. And in that downtime, it really gets you to think like, where have I been putting my sexual energy? Where have I been spending my sexual currency? Right. And I use that intentionally because Venus rules money. Money is currency, sexual currency. You get it, right? So, where have you been spending that? Who have you been spending it on? And where would you like to expend that energy in a way that's pleasurable to you, right? This can really be a transit that you really overhaul your sexual relationships, where you overhaul your relationships, period, right? And that's a good thing because, and I mentioned this ad nauseum in my Mars retrograde video. I talk about how anytime a planet is retrograde, it's really about stopping, reflecting, recalibrating. And particularly with Mars retrograde, it's like, where have I been spending my energy? Right? And when we're talking about this particular transit, namely Venus opposite Mars, it's like, where have I been spending my sexual energy? Like, let's just I'm being guided to say this, even though I don't want to. But for instance, so many women fake orgasms, right? Like, let's not beat around the bush. A lot of us do that shit, right? And it's like, but why? Why? Life is too short to not have fulfilling sex, right? And so this particular transit is like, so why have I been doing that? And what does pleasure really feel like to me? What kind of sexual relationships do I want to experience? And why haven't I been experiencing them? Okay. If you haven't noticed already, this particular transit has a very sexual undertone, but it gets you to examine what you really want. And without putting energy into a whole bunch of things that aren't what you want, you get to conserve your energy and then, you recalibrate and direct it toward what you actually do want. And in this case, we're talking about sexual relationships. We're talking about relationships generally, okay? Romantic relationships, okay? So use it for that. But here's the thing. Let's say you haven't watched this live or this replay, okay? And you know nothing of astrology. The way that astrology works, it's like gravity. You're subject to the laws of gravity without even realizing how it works. Astrology is the same thing. So you may find that something happens in your relationship or something stops, right? Or maybe you're used to linking up with this person every week and all of a sudden this week you're not. Like, the universe is going to get you to stop. It's going to get you to rest. It's going to get you to figure out if you're going in the right direction. And in this case, romantically or even sexually. So use the transit for what it is made for. And by the time that Mars goes direct in February, you should have a better idea of what you really want and taking action toward that. So for right now, if you're experiencing a situation where sex isn't that good or there's something going on in a relationship, it's so that you can really reflect on it. So use it for that. All right. So that is Thursday. Let's move on to Friday. So on Friday, we've got Mercury sextile Venus, and we've got the waxing gibbous moon in Gemini. All right. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. So we've got Mercury sextile Venus. So you'll see Mercury at 6 degrees of Sagittarius at the upper right hand portion of the chart. And over there on the left, you'll see Venus at 7 degrees of Aquarius. And at the very bottom of the chart, you will see the moon is in the sign of Gemini. All right. So Mercury sextile Venus. Now, keep in mind, Mercury is still retrograde. Now, whenever we have Mercury sextile Venus, like normally, this is a transit where you can really express how you feel. It really fosters authentic communication in relationships, or a more cohesive kind of communication style. And what I mean by that is Venus isn't only the planet of love and relationships, it's also the planet of fairness. So when we have Mercury sextile Venus normally, this is opportunities to mend relationships, settlements, negotiations, like communication where everybody wins, right? That is the essence of Mercury sextile Venus. Now, because Mercury is currently retrograde this week, this is about really being fair to yourself. Now, I know that can sound a little counterintuitive or a little weird, but whenever Mercury is retrograde, we take that energy of Mercury, which has a lot to do with communication and ideas, and we sort of put it inward, right? And we sort of really evaluate how we communicate, what we think about, etc. When you have a planet like Venus, and particularly with Venus currently in Aquarius, there's very much this emphasis on the other. Aquarius is the sign of the collective, right? So Venus in Aquarius is kind of like, doing it for the group or taking one for the team, right? And when you have like Mercury and Venus sextile normally, right? It's really about communication that fosters togetherness, all of that stuff. However, I feel like the best use of this energy with Mercury retrograde, sextile Venus, is like thinking of yourself first and putting fairness toward yourself at the forefront of anything else that you do. And I like this because it's like Venus in Aquarius can really foster togetherness, which is not a bad thing, right? We need togetherness, we need harmony, but it really fosters things like group think. It fosters things like fitting into the crowd, regardless of how you feel as an individual. Okay. But with Mercury retrograde, it really gets you to examine, why am I part of this group? How do I relate to these people? And how do I, as an individual, contribute to this group? And so essentially, it's about being fair to yourself first. So it's about putting yourself first. So, of course, this really depends on where both Mercury and Venus are in your chart, but it's important to use this energy for what it is made for. And essentially, it is to put yourself first and think about what you need and think about the value of your own thoughts. I said that Venus in Aquarius, it fosters group think. It fosters fitting into the crowd, right? Maybe you are sort of quelling your thoughts and your opinions in order to fit in with this group. Mercury retrograde is like, okay, I understand that everyone thinks this way or everyone likes this thing or we're all coming together centered around this particular issue, but do I really feel this way? Or what is my opinion about this for real? And so I feel like one of two things will happen with this transit. You'll either find that you really fit into the group, like how you think and your opinions really gel with everyone else's, or they don't. And if that's the case, then maybe it's time to separate from the group or put your own group together, that kind of a thing, right? Either way, I feel like you can gain a lot of insight into how you think based on the groups that you're in and the people that you associate with. I think that's what this transit ultimately will bring to you. And at the same time, we've got the waxing gibbous moon in Gemini. So this is going to be a day that you may find that there is a lot of communication among people that you associate with. Whenever the moon is in Gemini, it typically signifies a busy kind of time. It signifies a time when we're learning from other people, we're communicating with other people, we're transacting business. It's a lot of transactional stuff, a lot of communication. So by the end of the week, it may be a time when you're really communicating with other people. You're really focused on the groups or associations that you're a part of and how you sort of fit into the whole scheme of things. All right. So that is Friday. And now finally we get to Sunday, where we have sort of the star of the week, which is the full moon in Gemini. Then we also have Mercury going direct in Sagittarius. And then later on that evening, we have the moon moving into Cancer into the waning gibbous phase. All right, so let's take a look and see what this looks like on the chart. So you will see at the top right hand portion of the chart, you'll see the moon will be at the full moon phase and it will be at 23 degrees of Gemini. And directly across from it, you will see the sun at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. Later on that evening, the moon will move into Cancer, which you can't currently see on the chart. And then Mercury will be stationing direct in the sign of Sagittarius. Okay. So first, let's talk about the full moon. Now, I did a video all about it. It is dropping tomorrow. So you'll definitely want to check that out for everything you need to know about the full moon in Gemini. But suffice it to say, this full moon is all about learning, and it's learning through challenges a little bit, okay? Because of the way the full moon is set up, you may be required to pivot really quick. You may need to learn on your feet. You may have situations where you have to kind of go in a different direction mentally. However, it is getting us out of our comfort zone, but most importantly, it's getting us to learn something new. Now, Whenever we have any moon in Gemini, things get really busy. So you're going to want to look at where Gemini is in your natal chart. This is where you're probably going to see a lot of activity. It could be a lot of communication, could be a lot of talking, could be a lot of listening, could be a lot of learning, could be a lot of transacting business, right? Either way, Gemini is busy body energy. So prepare to get busy with this particular full moon. But either way, it's going to be an eye-opening and a learning experience, but you're going to have to be flexible and you're going to have to be adaptable. If you want to know more about that full moon, again, that video drops tomorrow. All right. Then that same day, Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini, where this full moon is happening, is going to be going direct in Sagittarius. So with Mercury going direct on the same day as a full moon in Gemini, understand that communication is still going to be a little wonky. Okay. Mercury retrograde is great for miscommunication, misunderstandings, mishaps, all of that stuff. And it's not out of the woods yet. Even though it's going to be going direct, it's still going to take another week or two for it to be back to its regularly scheduled programming. However, there really is going to be a focus on communication and even ideas. So you're going to want to be mindful of what you say, whether you're saying it to other people or even whether it's the narrative that you speak of yourself or to yourself. You're going to want to watch your communication, right? And expect perhaps misunderstandings or miscommunication, but monitor your ideas. Full moons illuminate. And with the full moon in Gemini, plus Mercury going direct in Sagittarius, it's like what I'm seeing right now is like a video game, right? And have you ever experienced like a bonus level that's unlocked? That's kind of what this full moon is going to be like with Mercury going direct in Sagittarius. It's like there's going to be a part of the bigger picture, or maybe even a whole new bigger picture that's going to be unlocked to you. So pay attention to pay attention to your communications, pay attention to your thoughts because they're going to teach you and show you a lot. All right. And then we close out the week with the moon moving into its home sign of Cancer on Sunday night. And this is going to be a time to hunker down, get cozy. You know how moon is in Cancer. It's all about feeling comfort. It's all about being comforted. It's all about your basic emotional needs. And at that point, the moon will be moving into the waning phase. And so when the moon moves into the waning phase, we get rid of what we no longer need. So if anything isn't making you feeling secure, safe, accepted, loved, fed even, you got to let it go, right? And that is how we close the week. All right. So like I said, not too much going on this week, but with Mercury is still retrograde, but it will be going direct. But with Mars having just gone retrograde, expect things to slow down. Okay. So that's all I got for you this week, my loves. All right. So hopefully you got what you were looking for with this broadcast. Hopefully this made sense. And hopefully you guys have a great week. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you nothing but the absolute best for this coming week and beyond. And I will see you in my next video. All right, my loves. Have a wonderful week and take care.